Hi, welcome back to McMorris Prosthetic Services. Today I wanted to talk about prosthetic vocab and just some important things to know in the beginning. Just some important, terms. There's shrinkers, liners, socks, sleeves, and like just those. So let's just get into it. So you just lost your leg, and you met a prosthetist, and he comes into you, and he's gonna say, I have a shrinker for you. And a shrinker is a nylon sock, basically. It's a tight nylon sock that you'll put on and wear for a couple weeks before they do your casting. And it is to manage your volume. We're all very swollen in the beginning. We all have a lot of volume in the beginning after amputation. So it's necessary for all of us, at least in the first couple months, to wear a shrinker to get that volume to come down so that we can be casted when we're at a more realistic place that our limb will be at. A month from then, or 2 months, or 6 months from then, our limb should be more like where we're at getting casted, because our limb is always changing. So a shrinker is to manage that volume and help bring that volume down. Then once you are ready to get casted, if you're being casted, like all of us are here in America, in a liner, then you will get what's called a liner. And a liner is a gel, silicone, urethane, could be a lot of different materials, but it's a grippy sleeve, basically. I call it a grippy scuba suit, and this is going to be the interface between your body and your prosthetic. This is how your prosthetic is going to attach to you. And so this is a tightness similar to your shrinker, but it's going to be a thicker material. It's going to be more rigid. It could have a pin on the bottom of it. It could have seals on it. It could have a strap on it. It could have many different things depending on your suspension. But a liner is pretty standard in American prosthetic care for suspending sockets. So you have a shrinker that is to manage volume, that is a nylon sock, and then you have a liner that is to suspend your sockets, your body interface, and it is a little bit thicker, like gel or silicone, some sort of grippy texture, thicker sock. And then from there, I shouldn't use the word sock, because what's next is a sock, and that is a volume management sock, we'll say. And so those are basically a cotton stocking that have different thicknesses. They could be 1 ply, 3 ply, 5 ply, and then you will layer those up. So like I was saying, talking about shrinkers, our limb is always changing. So especially in the beginning, you'll get into your socket and it'll fit really tight, and then you'll wear it for a day, or you'll wear it for a week or two, and you'll start to notice as you wear it more and more that it's getting big now, and you're starting to fall down into the bottom of it, and maybe you're moving around and pistoning in your socket and things like that. And so that's because, again, your limb is always going to be atrophying somewhat. It's always going to be losing volume, or it can add volume too. You can fluctuate and add and different things. And so these cotton socks are to manage that volume. When you come down and you've shrunk a little bit, like sometimes when I put my leg on in the morning, I am a little bit big and my socket is really tight, but then I wear it for an hour or two and I'm walking around and I've walked out some of that water weight and everything, and now I shrink down and hit the bottom of my socket. And for me, that's great, but there are people that they shrink down and it gets too much, and so now I'm going to put those socks on, maybe 1 ply, maybe 1 and a 5, and now I got 6 ply, or maybe a 5 and a 2, now I've got 7. And now that's how you manage that extra space that's in your socket. So throughout the day, you could put those on or take those off, and that's going to help you keep that tightness in your socket. Then we have what's called a sleeve, and a sleeve could go on the outside of your socket. It's more common in transtibial or below knee amputees, but a lot of amputees use a seal or a sleeve suspension, and so that is creating a seal with a sleeve that goes on the outside of the socket, and they can be black or tan or gray, or they come in a lot of different colors. Sleeves go on the outside of your socket. Liners are on the inside connecting to your body. Shrinkers are before you get your prosthetic. You could wear a shrinker long after you get your prosthetic too. I know people that like to wear shrinkers when they go to bed, or maybe they just deal with volume fluctuation quite a bit, so wearing a shrinker when they're not wearing their leg helps them keep that more level volume throughout the day. So that is the base of shrinkers, liners, and sleeves. So those are more of the softer textiles that you'll use. When I talk about suspension, we're talking about how your socket suspends onto your body. That could be with a pin system, that could be with a suction type of system, it could be with a vacuum type of system, but basic, vocab is suspension. We're talking about the type of socket that you have and how it suspends to your body. Then we'll move to feet. So you've got all the different feet that we'll be reviewing on the channel and going into more and more feet because there are so many feet on the market. In the beginning, you could end up getting all different types of feet. You could have what's called a satch foot, which won't have a carbon spring in it and is more of a block basically. It's just there for you to step on and learn how to balance and use things. Or you could have an energy storing foot that will have a carbon spring. You're going to have a foot and it's going to have the actual foot, which looks like one of these. That will be, some sort of carbon spring or fiberglass spring, or depending on, hydraulic ankle. I'm not going to get into all that. Everywhere you're going to have some sort of foot plate that is probably a carbon spring or fiberglass spring that goes into a mannequin foot shell. You see this is a foot shell that goes on top of my spring that is going down inside here. So you've got the actual foot. That is the carbon piece. That's the foot. Then you've got the foot shell that goes on top of that. So from there you have your pyramid top. So I have an adapter on here, but attached underneath this is another pyramid. So there you have your pyramid on your foot. And then from the pyramid you will attach pylons. And pylons are these posts that you use to adjust for height. So depending on if you're below knee or above knee, matching your other limb or how tall you want to be, these are kind of how you fill in the gaps between your components and connect everything like Tinker Toys, I guess. These are your connectors. So from there you'll have your socket. We've gone through, you'll have a test socket and then a preparatory socket, which is probably very similar to you of what it is, but it's probably made out of a little bit different material. And then your final socket, definitive, that is your carbon fiber socket and all of the different suspensions there. And then if you're above knee, obviously you have a knee that will attach above that too. And we're going into knees on the channel right now and all of those different devices, so you can get more education on the basic feet and knees. But I think that it is helpful to understand specifically the difference of shrinkers, liners, and socks and sleeves. Some other base key terms to be aware of are medial and lateral. So if you drew a line right down the center of your nose all the way down the middle of your body to the ground, and then you took your amputated side, my side is the right side, so the medial would be the inside or towards the midline. So that would be the left side of my foot, the inside of my socket, everything that would be towards the midline. Lateral would be away from the midline, so the outside. And then anterior would be towards the front of your socket or the front of your foot or whatever it is that you're talking about, mostly socket. And posterior would be towards the back or the back side. And then we will have more vocabulary videos coming up because there are a lot of other components such as torsion components, vertical shock, different alignment plates, different offset plates. There are a lot of different things, so we'll go through those again in a later video and kind of knock out some of those extra things. So I think those things specifically, the terminology is the same everywhere of shrinker, liners, socks, sleeves. And so understanding that as a user is helpful when you're going into these places and you don't know what they're talking about at all. And they're like, well, does it feel good on the medial side or the lateral side? And you're like, what are you talking about? At least you'll be able to say, well, my liner feels too tight or my sleeve is too loose, and know what you're referencing. So hopefully it's helpful. Other than that, we'll see you next time.